If you haven't heard, my new project is a tiny cabin on wheels, basically a DIY camper. So I took a trip to the RV Hall of Fame and Museum for some inspiration and ideas. I highly recommend it if you're ever passing through Elkhart, Indiana. They've got a whole bunch of early 20th century handmade trailers, as well as commercially built campers and motorhomes from the 1950s all the way up through the 2020s. Including this sweet, I don't know what you call it, some sort of Ultra Family Truckster 3000. It's not really the look I'm going for with my camper, but it's still pretty awesome. Let's go take a peek inside a few. Okay, before we get into it, there's a distinction to be made between different types of RVs. First, you've got your travel trailers, enclosed living spaces with hard sides that hitch to a car or truck. Teardrops are a kind of tiny-sized subcategory with its own community of enthusiasts. Then you've got your collapsible tent trailers, which evolved into the pop-up campers still seen today. Then you've got your truck campers that slide into the bed of a pickup truck. And finally, motorhomes, complete with an engine, cab, and living quarters. No tow vehicle required. They range from small van-sized campers to large luxury coaches like a Rockstar tour bus. Schoolies, I guess, fall into the motorhome category. This video focuses on travel trailers because that's what I'm building in my garage. Plus, one example of an early motorhome, or what they used to call a housecar. They say this here 1913 trailer is the oldest non-tent travel trailer in existence, but I don't think so. I'd say the old Romani wagons, some still call them gypsy wagons, are the original travel trailers, and there's still some survivors around. Here's that one early motorhome I had to show you. Wait for it. There it is. Can you just imagine yourself cruising down the road, sitting in your easy chair with one hand on the wheel and the other hand with a spatula flipping a burger on that cook range over there? Oh yeah. I guess this is a camper body that could be attached to any brand of truck chassis back in the day. Kind of looks like a schoolie on the inside. Here's one with a leatherette exterior and canvas-covered roof. The thing about these old 1930s trailers is the woodwork is stained so dark. I guess that was the style back then. I do like the cabinet hardware though. Looks like what you'd see on a boat. I'm going to try to find some replica hardware like that for my build. On the outside, this one looks downright futuristic for 1935. They say it's a handcrafted one-of-a-kind. You can tell it's got more of a homemade look on the inside. But I tell you what, whoever did that bodywork had some mad skills. Here's one I'd say is about 18 feet long. The exact length wasn't listed on all of these early ones, so I had to guesstimate on a few. That shiny Masonite exterior looks like sheet metal, but I guess it's lighter weight and maybe easier to work with. Here's more of that dark wood. Honestly, I don't mind it that much. Kinda has a man cavey cigar lounge vibe. But I don't think the wife's gonna go for that in our camper. Here's another Masonite-sided one made in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They called it a motorhome before actual motorhomes were a thing. It's really a travel trailer. Here's the first toilet I've seen. Probably just a chamber pot, but that's better than nothing. There's my fat finger making its first appearance. You'll see him a few times before we're through. This one belonged to Charles Lindbergh. He was the first guy to fly non-stop over the Atlantic Ocean. After that, he was pretty much the most famous man in the world. If you didn't catch it, it's actually a dual axle trailer, only they're set apart with one set of wheels towards the front. The stainless steel body looks a little bit like his plane, the Spirit of St. Louis. Very similar to the later Airstream we'll see coming up. Unless I'm mistaken, this one was the only example they had from the 1940s. I guess World War II put the kibosh on recreational travel for a while. To me, this looks a lot like a post-war mail-order kit you could have delivered in a box and assemble yourself. Okay, stick with me. We've got 8 more vintage trailers to go from the 1950s and 60s, including some classic canned hams and that Airstream flying cloud. In addition to visiting the RV Hall of Fame, I've been reading a lot of vintage articles and how-to plans for travel trailers from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Even though RV equipment and building materials have improved a lot since then, I find the old school construction methods, framing, and interior layout diagrams to be super helpful, especially if you're considering a period restoration. I've collected a few of my favorites for you on my website, mostly smaller 14 to 18-foot trailers that don't need a full-size truck to pull. I put a link in the description. Go check them out. Okay, jumping into the 1950s, here's our first example of a classic aluminum-sided canned ham, so called for its resemblance to an actual canned ham. This one wasn't yet fully restored, but you can see how the walls and cabinets are a lot lighter than the darker look of the 1930s. This holiday rambler is another variation of the canned ham style. They all have a similar layout, with dinette up front, center galley kitchen, and beds in the rear. It's a good use of the space, and I'm thinking this arrangement also serves to distribute the weight. The old-timers probably knew what they were doing, so I'm going to follow a similar plan for my build. Most people think of a Shasta like this one when they picture a 1950s travel trailer in their head. In fact, some people use the name Shasta as a generic term for all small campers of the era. There's my fat finger again. I noticed the museum used these wood steps to support heavy tourist foot traffic. That's a good idea. Those camper steps weren't made for a man of girth like myself. I'm going to make one for my trailer. Here's a nice 18-footer with 2 entry doors. It's a little more high-end with birch cabinets, residential quality appliances, full oven, even a furnace there by the door. That's right about where I'm going to position a tiny wood-burning stove in my trailer. Now, here's a classic shiny Airstream. None of that cramped RV furniture here. We're just bringing in a full-size couch. Pretty sweet. The Etch-a-Sketch is a nice touch. This 62 Mallard is almost exactly the same size and year of the platform trailer frame I'm building on. According to the museum, this one belonged to the same family for 30 years before it ended up here. Looks like they took pretty good care of it. This early Coachman Cadet has a corner kitchen up front. I'm not too crazy about that. Doesn't seem like a great use of the limited space. But it's different. Other than the bunk, there's no bed separate from the convertible dinette. Finally, we've got this late 60s Winnebago trailer. The cool thing about this one is that little overhang up front. That's a nice way of adding extra sleeping or storage space. I'm going to try to work something like that into the design of mine. But I don't know about putting it above the stove like that. That just doesn't seem too wise. On this same trip, we made our way to Washington, D.C. The Smithsonian also had a cool exhibit about RV living as an affordable alternative lifestyle during the Great Depression of the 1930s. I suppose that wasn't so different than the nomad or #van life trend almost 100 years later.
Economic times are changing. And so my goal is to get the lifeboats out and get as many people into the lifeboats as I can.
What's that saying? The more things change, the more they stay the same. Well, that just about does it. Thanks for joining me on this trip through RV history. We'll see you down the road.